Congratulations to Hinkley on the amazing relaunch of Frederick Raymond. You guys are surrounded by these pieces, as you can see, and they really are stunning. We're going to talk a little bit about what goes into lighting, and today we get to do a deep dive into lighting in elevated interiors around the country with two phenomenal talents. We have Phillip Thomas and Benjamin Johnston sitting right next to me. And these two really need no introduction. Welcome, but I am going to put you on the spot, and just if you could quickly just say, where you're based, maybe what your firm specializes in, just one or two tidbits before we get started. Ben, I'll kick it over to you.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I am so thrilled to be here. I love being surrounded by the jewelry of a space, and this is really some beautiful jewelry here at the Frederick Raymond relaunch. So happy to be here, and thank you for being our moderator today. So Lux Magazine, by the way, is doing such a phenomenal job. Those of you who do not have a subscription, you need to go ahead and get one.
I like that plug.
So yes, I'm based in Houston, Texas. I have an architecture and interiors company, and we do projects all over the country. We've worked globally. We've worked in 13 different countries and over 30 cities. We have a really wonderful team. We're a team of 26 people, and it's kind of split right down the middle, half architecture, half interior design. So I am thrilled to be here, and yes, let's talk about all the good things.
Thank you, Ben. Phillip, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Phillip Thomas. I'm an interior designer based in New York City. I have a smaller firm than Ben's, but I love what I do, and we create interiors that really tell the stories about our clients, which is so much fun. I'm lucky to count on clients doing second, third, and fourth projects with me, and it's so fun to see how they evolve over time, because if you're doing the same thing that you did in your first home, in your fourth home, you're not challenging yourself, you're not pushing yourself to show who you are and how you have evolved. And hopefully we all evolve. So our interiors tell that story of how we proceed in life, and it's just a fascinating way to go. I have a small team of 4 people who I rely on wholeheartedly. They're like family to me, and we travel the globe searching for gorgeous things and creating one-of-a-kind bespoke interiors.
So today we're talking about, you guessed it, lighting. And we all know that lighting can really make or break a space, right? It really brings elevated interiors to life. So I wanted to kick it off by just talking about lighting in a little bit more of a broad strokes term, how each of you kind of approach this. Obviously, you're looking at natural light, correct, when you're crafting a space, but also bringing in beautiful lighting elements. So Phillip, do you want to just talk a little bit, broad strokes, about your approach?
Well, to me, light is one of the most fundamental elements in a space. The way you move light around a space helps to accentuate a space, make a space feel bigger, put you at ease, energize you. It does so many things, and no two spaces are alike. There's so many different considerations, from the overall architecture of the space, from being more traditional to more contemporary. All of that really matters in how an interior speaks to the people that inhabit it, and also creating layers, because how you illuminate a home in the morning is very different from how you illuminate it right before you go to bed. So it's creating that flexibility, creating those many layered stories, which is super important. And to me, it's not only about architectural lighting, that is kind of the backbone, but it is these pieces of lighting, these jewel-like pieces that really capture your attention and allow you to focus on certain features of a space that you otherwise would not necessarily pay attention to.
What's your take, Ben?
My take is that, just like Phillip's, I think it's about storytelling, and I think it's about, one interesting thing is, as a practice in what we do with lighting is, a lot of times we do ground up construction, so we're doing architecture, where a lot of times some of the first things that have to be picked out is even the decorative lighting, because we got to know, is the ceiling braced for a really heavy piece? Do we know what kind of elements are going to be provided? And we think about it in also triangulation of space. So we think about, where is the lighting coming from? We don't want just lighting from the ceiling with a beautiful beautiful chandelier or flush pendant. We might also want them from the walls or from table lamps, floor lamps. Where is all that lighting coming from? And we want to, Philip's point, want to spread those throughout the room so that your eye is drawn to certain elements. The other thing that is really important is, and this is physiologically proven, but your eye is attracted to light. So your eye is immediately going to go to the brightest, lightest thing in the room. And so what an amazing opportunity to tell a story with beautiful decorative lighting that your eye is attracted to. I think that's one of the things that we do. And as a practice, not only are we thinking about it and how it's going to flow throughout a space, but we also think about it, how they work together and what story do they tell together. So when we're doing some pre-selections for a house, we may be very early. So we're actually interested in what is the chandelier in the foyer, and then what are you going to experience as that next decorative layer that you might see in the maybe adjacent library or formal living room, and what is that story that's going to be told over there in the dining room? I may not have selected a single piece of furniture yet, but I am thinking about the decorative lighting as being some of the stars in the room.
What we do at Lux is really take a regional approach to design. So I did want to address that today. We all know that light right in the foothills of Texas is different than, on the beach in Miami versus, a high rise in New York, right? You get different light wherever you are. So I did just want to quickly talk a little bit about how where you are dictates light, both inside and outside. And you guys are really designing all over the world. So can you just touch on that a little bit about how location kind of influences lighting in the home?
To your point, designing a home in Miami, yes, I see you, Jen. Designing a home in Miami right on the ocean is dramatically different. You're closer to the equator, for example. You're dealing with light that is bouncing off the ocean or the intercoastal, and all of that really goes to affecting how you have to almost compensate for the strong amounts of light coming into the home through light fixtures and architectural lighting and whatnot. And it's very hard to get used to, but you soon enough, after a few trials and errors, figure out exactly what the right formula is. But also, going from a very modern plate glass building to a building with smaller openings, smaller windows, that too makes such a difference, because at night, for example, with those beautiful plate glass buildings, at night you are dealing with having to make a space feel brighter because the dark windows give the illusion of such darkness, which can weigh a space down. So that too is a huge challenge.
I also think about mood. It's so critical. Mood is something that is often told through lighting. But I would also say, thank God for lighting control systems. I'm a huge believer in Lutron systems, and I love being able, after we get all the beautiful decorative lighting installed, going through and programming those scenes so that it can adjust and shift to whatever mood you're wanting to create. And you're thinking about lighting throughout that period of the day, to your point, when it's brighter, when it's darker, and you can make those adjustments in the field. The other thing I was going to mention is that in terms of regionality, in Texas we have such they love to say everything's bigger in Texas. The houses and the scale of the spaces that we work on are challenging because a lot of times they're huge, huge spaces. And I'm often envious of my colleagues that get to work on these New York apartments.
I find those huge spaces so daunting.
Yeah.
So
It's hard, yeah.
you can have them.
But I think how lovely, because a lot of decorative lighting isn't scaled to fit some of these massive, massive spaces that we are in Texas having to deal with. So I do think regionality has an aspect of that.
So we all know how important, right, well-crafted, high quality products and materials are when you're designing homes, right? Whether it be textiles or furnishings or lighting. So I did want to read this quote about Frederick Raymond. The new relaunch is defined by statement-making lighting designs, focus on a handcrafted artistry, luxurious hand-touched finishes, and opulent materials. So can you both talk a little bit about how important it is to source handcrafted product, when you're putting together your schemes and your spaces?
For me, being able to see the hand that made something, it breathes life into the piece, it gives it a soul. And so some people, I have some clients that at first love the idea of everything being plastic fantastic, which is fantastic, and there's a time and a place for it. But in the journey that we go through together in creating their home, we come to understand the importance of things having singularity and not every element being perfectly matched. Like if you look at the Maya Sputnik chandelier to my left, you'll see that every glass disc is hand blown, and to that end, each disc is unique, which to me is fantastic. It shows the soul of a piece, and each piece, as a consequence, reflects light in a different way, which, going back to light and going back to how your eye gets attracted to the brightest source, your eye dances through the space when the fixture reflects differently. So that's my take.
A lot of times I feel like I am in a position of educating our clients, and a lot of times you have to breathe a little bit of romance into the products that you're selling. And a lot of times I think that, to your point, plastic fantastic, which I'm going to borrow that, but I love this notion, and I try to make sure people know that the evidence of the handmade is truly a sign of luxury. When you get to see the evidence of the maker, it has so much more, to your point, soul. But I also think a lot about the fact that, when I'm trying to convey this to a client, a lot of times they want, obviously, everything overnight, and they want everything to be perfect. And I say, this product is not from Amazonia Prime. This product is handmade and handcrafted, sometimes by hundreds of people, sometimes by a dozen of people, sometimes by one maker. And the evidence of their making this for your home is so exciting and so beautiful. And then I sit there and say, talk about luxury. Your house is the product of thousands and thousands of people who've made this product, and it's coming into your home. But I think there should be a romance about the handmade. I think there should be a romance, because I think that is truly luxury.
That's a great point. So I want to take a look at some of your beautiful work, some of which has been featured in the pages of Luxe. To our left, I'm wondering if you guys could just walk us through a few examples, talk about the space, why you used what you did in terms of lighting. Phillip, do you want to take us away?
So this is a room in the iconic Dakota Apartments in New York, and if I tell you that space has such a story to it, we really wanted to have a chandelier that commanded your attention, made you appreciate the ceiling height without dominating the space and taking away from the important art collection. So we worked with a glass blowing facility in Murano, Italy, to create a piece that commanded your attention without taking away from all of the beauty of the space.
Generally, the way we approach lighting also is I love to break rules when it comes to lighting. I think a lot of times, when you're in design school, they'll tell you, okay, your dining room is X number of feet by this number of feet, therefore you need this size dining table, and therefore you need this size chandelier over the dining table, and it needs to be hung at this many inches off the table. I love those rules because they're a great guide, but I think that those rules often lead to what I would say are unmemorable interiors. Because I think one of the great opportunities we have as designers is to create those memorable spaces, and I love breaking all the rules when it comes to it. So I ignore all of them, or I deliberately break those rules. So I'm interested in scale, and I love either going two directions with scale. Either I want to go way bigger than is prescribed to go, or I want to go much smaller than is prescribed to go, because I think that creates a tension in the room. And it creates some interest. Again, I think every space should have something a little funky, a little ugly, a little off scale, a color that's not exactly right. I think that just makes for an interior that your guests and your clients are going to remember forever.
I would love your take, how important is it to photograph your projects? What do you look for? Why do you need to invest in it? I mean, you can see these beautiful spaces, again, many of which have been featured in Luxe. Let's just briefly touch on the subject of photography.
We put our heart and soul into the work that we do, and to be able to document it and capture it that moment in time, the name of the article in the current Luxe magazine for one of my projects, is so important because it shows not only your client's taste, but it shows your evolution as a designer. I go back 15 years ago to when I started my firm, and I see the interiors that I did, and I'm so proud to see how each and every one of my projects is different. And these photographs are our calling card, both through magazines and through press, but also through social media. And it is not an easy task, but once you find a photographer that you gel with and that it's like you don't even have to speak and you all know what the angles are, what the light is, how to capture your space. It is so special, and it's just, we're so proud of what we do, and we just want to be able to, have that immortalized for decades to come.
The thing I was just going to say is, for years as a young designer, I thought, is it worth the effort to hire somebody to photograph this project? And I would often say, me being a baby designer, I was like, no, it's just, this project was good, but it wasn't that great, so maybe I'm not going to photograph it. Big mistake. Big mistake. And I would encourage everyone to hire the best photographer they can afford. I would really suggest that you work with a stylist. I know that sounds also like a luxury, but you get so much more out of a shoot if you hire a stylist that's good. They're going to do things in your room that you're going to see are like magic. I would also say is you cannot be afraid to move furniture, take furniture out, pull furniture in from another room. The other thing I can also tell you, and I know Jill shares this as well, do not shoot towards a television. And if you shoot towards a television, take it out. Hang a piece of art over it. Do something to cover up that television, because you will not get featured in magazines if that is the center of your photo. So those are some words from the wise. I would also say turn off the lights. I know that sounds like sacrilege, being here in a lighting showroom. But I will tell you that the colors, everything reads truer when you're using natural light in the space. And so the prominence in your chandeliers should still look gorgeous when the lights are turned off. But it is one of those things that you want to make sure you're not shooting yourself in the foot for an editorial feature by kind of committing some of these cardinal faults and rules. So something to keep in mind when y'all are shooting your projects.
Great advice here, and really think of photography as a tool to grow your business, right? As marketing, it's really valuable to invest in that. So let's bring it back to lighting. We have a few more questions for you guys. So I know, Ben, you touched on kind of this formula or mix, and I don't think there is such tried and true formula for lighting, but talk to us a little bit about all the elements, all the lighting elements and the layers that you need to create, a beautiful space. I know we have the statement chandelier, but then as you said, there's tasks, there's floor, there's sconces, there's flush mounts. In a space, you need all these elements, right, to make these interiors
dynamic,
come alive.
Yeah, no, totally true. In lighting, if you've ever been in a lighting class and been taught in proper interior design lighting, they always talk that you need basically 4 layers of lighting. You need your ambient layer, you need your task layer, you need your focal layer, and you need your decorative layer. Those are your 4 layers. When you're thinking about fixtures, many of them might fall into multiple categories.
True.
Something that is decorative might also be yielding ambient light. Something that's focal may also be task. There's certain things to keep in mind when you're going through that process. But a good space has all the layers. So when you're thinking about lighting and you're thinking about kind of filling out a space and telling a story and creating a mood and creating function, the best thing you can do is really think about that mix and where all the lighting is coming from. The other thing I was just going to say is I think a lot of times, when you're a rookie designer, you're only thinking in plan. And so you're only thinking about, well, I need something on my ceiling and maybe I need a floor lamp. But you have to think about it in 3 dimensions, and you have to think about what lighting is coming from your walls. Could it be a sconce? Could it be a floor lamp that's kind of at eye level? So thinking about all those layers really makes for a more dynamic space, and I think that's ultimately what creates utility, function, mood, all the things that you would want out of an interior.
My biggest suggestion, put a dimmer on everything.
Everything.
All right? Dimmers just make the world go round, in my opinion.
Or a lighting control system.
Well, when you don't have that luxury, it is a wonderful thing, a lighting control system. But at a minimum, a dimmer is man's best friend.
Yes.
You guys are such pros. We look at your work and it's so impressive. And again, I know there are, I think, a few designers out here. Do you guys have any sort of parting wisdom or advice, for those just starting out, for those at market, just from two pros, I'd love kind of your wisdom and your parting advice to designers out there. Doesn't even have to be about lighting, but would you do anything differently?
I have two pieces of advice. Okay. One, every one of you should be really using your home as a laboratory. You should be pushing yourself harder than you've ever pushed yourself before, challenging yourself in new ways, doing all the things that your clients told you not to do because either it was too expensive, too complex, too risky, you name it. Do all those things in your home, photograph your home, let it be a living testament to your work. That's number one. But that's tied into my second piece of advice, and it was something that my mom told me when I was literally this big, and she told me literally all the time, and it's an old Milton Berle quote, and he said, if opportunity doesn't knock, then build a door. And what that really says to me, great advice, and it is something that I literally is ingrained in my head. I am never waiting for somebody to tap me on the shoulder and say, you should consider doing this, you need to do that, you know, I am literally saying to myself all the time, how can I make this an opportunity? Either for business, for work, for anything, any kind of partnership, any collaboration. I am the first person that goes out and says, let's create a mutually beneficial and mutually enriching relationship. Let's do this. So that is my greatest advice. If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door.
Probably one of the worst words in the English vocabulary to me is the word trend. Okay? Trends are wonderful ways to inspire you, but if they don't inspire you, don't follow them because they won't feel genuine. The work that you put out using a trend that you're not engaged with will fall flat. Follow what makes you tick. That is the most important thing in any interior that you do. Be true to yourself.
So before we wrap up, I like to close it out with a little rapid fire.
Ooh,
yeah.
love it.
So I'm going to ask these gentlemen a few questions and just whatever comes into your mind. Wallpaper or paint?
I am constantly evolving in this one. Right now, I'm wallpaper.
I am all about wallpaper. And by the way, I have been told on good authority by editors everywhere, they say anything but white walls. So, you know, whether it has a decorative finish on that wall, whether it is wallpaper, whatever, go for the layers. Even if they're minimal, quiet layers, go for the layers.
Comfort or design?
They're not mutually exclusive, let me tell you.
That's one or the other question, but I'll let it go. What about you?
I mean, I would say, I would actually qualify and say function more because I think everything, whether it's comfortable or it's decorative, it serves a function. And I think you can always convince a client to do something if you frame it in the conversation of this is functioning in this certain way, it's serving you in this certain way. So I think function is what I would say.
Sconce or chandelier?
I love them both. I'm not gonna choose. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say that your face is always most flattering when there is eye-level lighting. So I am going to choose. If you only had one, okay. Sconce.
Two more. Favorite vacation destination?
A vineyard in the middle of Chile.
Ooh.
Believe it or not, I'm all about Disney World. So I know that shocks you. You're horrified, but Jill was just in Disneyland. I love Disney World. I'm a sucker for it. So.
Well, on that note, let's give a round of applause to these designers for a great discussion.